Hello guys, welcome back again. This is part 2 for the paper 1 variant 2, May-June 2024. Okay, so we will be continuing with question 3 and 4. Again, this paper does not have any additional insert booklet, and you may find your case studies right here in this paper. Alright, so let's start with question number 3. Let us read the case study. So, RBG is an oil company that has operations in 6 countries. RBG has 2,000 employees, including 60 managers. Some of its managers use a laissez-faire leadership style. All of RBG's internal communication uses information technology-based methods. The managing director knows RBG's business activities can create external costs and external benefits. She says, pressure groups often try to influence business decisions. Alright, so we have a lot of keywords here, and obviously you have a lot of application. Let us go through one by one. First, part A and part B are your 2-mark questions. You do not need to apply here. Alright, so first we have a definition question. You have to define laissez-faire. So laissez-faire, well, it is actually a French word. You should know this from your textbook again, but it's basically about giving freedom to employees. So employees can make decisions under this type of leadership style. So how would you define, or how would you write it? You can use your textbook definition. That will give you 2 marks. You can write it like I did here. A leadership styles where employees are supported to achieve their targets, at the same time allowing them freedom of deciding how to meet their targets. So you may write it differently, like you can say that making the broad objectives of a business known to employees, but then they're left to make their own decisions and organize their own work. Okay, so there's 2 parts for this. So if you did write, let's say, managers do not tell workers what to do or how to organize their work, you're only given 1 mark. So you have to add the part where they make the objectives known or they are supported. It's up to you, but you need to write 2 parts for this in order for you to get full marks, okay? And for both, you need the idea that links it to decision making at the end. So the definition that you choose to include should have the word or keyword decision making in it in order for you to get a mark at least, okay? Okay, this one is very easy. You have to identify the roles of a manager. All right, so first, for me, I chose planning and organizing. There's way more. There's also controlling, there's leading, or maybe you can say commanding instead of leading, coordinating, motivating, decision-making, communicating, delegating, and any other appropriate response is awarded. No issue, but your main answers for this question is planning, controlling, organizing, and leading, and it is in your textbook, okay? So you should know this by heart. Okay, now moving on to C and D, which are application questions, okay? So part C here asks us to outline 1 external cost and 1 external benefit to RBG's business activities, which might create. So when we say benefit and cost, we're talking about not to the business, but to us as a society, to the government and to the consumers, not to the business, okay? What you can write is, well, for me, for the external cost, I chose the loss of space or loss of land, because again, like it's said in the case study, it operates in 6 countries, so they use up a lot of area, okay? Here, loss of land will give me a mark. Okay, and then this is the application. Okay, so 2 marks. Okay, your external benefit, okay, like I said, a benefit to the society. Well, the obvious is you will write maybe about unemployment. So unemployment rates could be reduced, or you can say employment opportunities increase. It's up to you how you're gonna word it, but as long as the main point is that there's more jobs for people, okay, or decreasing, like I wrote here, decreasing the unemployment. Okay, so this one is 1 mark. As they may recruit more than 2,000 employees. This is an application. Okay, I believe it is, yes, it is an application. Okay, so 2 marks. You can also write about taxes, which is a benefit to the government in this case. So from RBG, the government could get taxes. You can say as an application, you can say from extracting oil, for example, because oil is not, it is a government property, or maybe let's say a country's property. So obviously there should be tax in return. Okay. All right, so this is for the 4 mark question part C. Moving on to part D. Okay, I think this one is pretty simple. It's just that it's how you write it and how you apply. And I know it's quite tricky. I find it tricky myself sometimes. But again, always, usually, well, let's just say always. Okay, always, for whatever method or whatever factor you have, always remember it's always 1 mark. Okay, so make sure you have it, of course, and this will secure you 1 mark at least. So far we have 2 marks. Okay, first, how are we going to explain our first method? Okay, emails. Okay, what are emails? Emails are messages, and they are through a platform. Can be Gmail, can be Yahoo, can be any sort of email application. Okay, it serves as a messaging tool, of course, and it's a written record. Okay, which is recorded, unlike spoken messages. So you can say it will serve as a written record for all 2,000 employees. Okay, here is an application. Okay, this is an explanation of what an email is. Two, in terms of, in terms of communication, what is an email is. You do not need to define what is it, like in general, what an email is. No, please don't do that. Define it as how it will help with communication. Okay, so another answer could be, well, here I put mobile calls, but you can also put video conferencing. You can give the example like Zoom or Teams or Google Meets, I don't know. You can choose website or social media like Facebook or Twitter. You can say that it's seen by many people at once, which is like which is an answer that will give you 1 mark. And then for an application, you can say in all the 6 countries. You can also write about text messages, SMS or DMs, as an example. You can say that it's also a written record. It saves time. It's quicker than an email, of course. And you can also say maybe you can use it for the 60 managers, I guess, as an application. Okay, let's look at the one I chose here. It's mobile calls. So explanation. Okay, I put the application here first. At the old company, they are able to get feedback. Okay, so mobile calls is usually used when you want instant feedback. You can add that as well when you're explaining, no problem. But yeah, this is an instant feedback. You can ask questions in real time and get answers quicker than an email and a message. Okay, maybe not as like detailed as a video conference, because in a video conference you can see body language and stuff, but I think mobile calls are good, especially within the company, like one branch itself. Okay, so part E. All right, part E is tricky as always, but please remember, I have not mentioned this in part 1, sorry, but part E is considered as a general question. Okay, so you do not need to apply. If you did, it's fine, no issue, but you do not have to, because you will not get any marks for it. Okay, what are marks awarded for in part E is that you will be awarded for identification of relevant point. Okay, meaning, let's say for example here, explain 2 ways a pressure group might try to influence business decisions. Which way do you think is likely to be the most effective? Okay, so let's say I will talk about raising awareness, for example, okay? Here, raising awareness is a identification. All right. Okay, so another mark you can get is for the relevant development of points. Okay, meaning the explanation of your identification, and then a mark for justified decision, which is the one you would do after choosing the best option. What I will show you now here. Okay, so this is what you're awarded for. There's 3. Okay, and for each you'll get 1 mark. Okay, let's see here. For me, I chose pressure groups and lobbying, but you can choose like petitions. You can talk about legal actions, like I said earlier. What else? Uh, Demonstrations or protests. Sorry, for the first one I chose boycotts. Okay, so sorry about that. What else? Yes, like raising awareness is a good one. You can talk a lot about this one. But I think boycott is quite an obvious one, I guess. Okay, let's see how I'll arrange it. So 2 ways a pressure group might influence business decisions. Okay, this is the first way. A pressure group could organize boycotts. Okay, here I will have a mark here. Okay, which leads to fewer sales. Here, this is you can say an explanation or an evaluation. Or you know what? Let's just call it an answer. Okay, an answer to your identification. Okay, so this automatically gives me 2 marks. Okay, 2. Okay, the second way I chose lobbying. Okay, they could also lobby politicians, which could influence government decisions. Okay. All right. Okay, so this one, 1 mark, and then the answer is another, and then you have 2 marks. Okay. Okay, so we have 4, which leaves us 2 more marks for justification. Okay? Okay, 2. I think that boycott is more effective. Okay, this is my personal opinion. Because fewer sales could mean less revenue. Okay, so far I would not have any point because I'm repeating what I've said earlier. But what will give me a point here is, okay, I mentioned we will have fewer sales, but I will now evaluate why fewer sales is a bad thing for a business, or how would it influence. Okay, fewer sales would mean less revenue, which could directly affect the business. Okay, now here is 1 mark. All right, whereas, okay, now I'm gonna argue why the other way that I chose is not more as effective as boycotting, whereas lobbying may not achieve anything other than raising awareness. Okay, so this whole thing is 1 mark. All right, 2. All right, so this is how you would answer part E and for question number 3. I hope you understand. I think it's clear. You can also use your mark scheme to try and arrange the other answers that they provide you and see how it would work for you. You can also use your own answers. Just make sure that you divide your points this way in order for you, even in the exam when you have time, just try to check if you did manage to achieve all points. Okay? All right, last question. Question number 4. DLT manufactures cups and plates in country X. Its factory uses flow production, okay, and has 75 employees. The human resources director is aware that there are many legal controls over employment. DLT exports 30% of its products to country Y, where it benefits from lower rates of taxation and no import quotas. DLT's managing director is considering relocating its factory to another part of country X to meet the increased demands for its exports. Okay, let's start with A and B first. The 2 marks question. No application is needed. First, you have to define import quota. Okay, when you see quota, it means a restriction, okay, and about a quantity, a certain quantity that you're allowed to import, okay? So I don't know, it could be anything, and I believe it varies in most countries maybe have it the same, I think. So how would you write this? For me, I wrote it like this: restriction on the quantity of a product that can be imported. Okay, as simple as that. So keyword here is restriction, and can be imported is another one. This is how I got 2 marks. Okay, partial definition. If you did write limit on number of quantity of good, you'll get 1 mark. If you wrote limit on imports, you'll only get 1 mark. So this means that this is a part and this is a part. Okay, so your answer should include both the word both the word imported and both or a limit or a restriction. Okay, you have to make it clear in order for you to get 2 marks. Part B, identify 2 benefits to a business of lower rates of taxation. This is simple. There's a lot. I chose higher profit margin and increasing revenue. You can talk about having more retained profit. You can say that it could encourage investment or encourage growth. You can also say that it increases sales, not just like increase revenue or increases income. You can say that it lower costs, or you can say there will be less cash outflow or lower expenses or cheaper raw materials for the business. Okay, there's a lot of answers and you may choose, and any other answers that I have not mentioned that are appropriate to this question are given marks. Okay, no worries, as long as it's within the context of the answer and it's logical, you're good to go. Part C, 4 mark question. Okay, for this one we have no application. Okay, why? Because it's obvious. You have 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here. So there's no explanation, which obviously means that you're awarded 1 mark for each. Okay, first you have to identify 4 legal controls of employment. Okay, there is a lot. For me, I chose unfair dismissal, there's minimum wage, there's redundancy, legal working age, blah blah blah. So what is legal controls over employment? Okay, each country has their own. So these are rules that regard to employment, okay, especially within like firms. So when they're employing a candidate or anybody, in any case, they are required to follow certain rules, and these are one of them. There's redundancy rules, there's the legal working age, there are legal working hour, your minimum wage or minimum salary. There should be a contract of employment, or examples such as like a sickness policy, a holiday entitlement, notice period, rate of pay, or pension entitlement. You have the discrimination or equal opportunities factor, health and safety, working conditions, and many more. Okay. Um, Things that might not be awarded for this question is something like ethical pay. But other than that, you're good to go. All right. You'll only be awarded for the first four. You like, let's say you write more than four, you're only given marks for the first four that you write. Okay. All right. Part D. Explain one reason why DLT need to consider each of the following factors when deciding where to relocate in country X. So when choosing a supplier or when choosing a suitable land, there are many factors for a business to have in mind. Okay. All right, for this question, you do need to apply because there's an explanation. And yes, we have 1 mark here and 1 here. So leaving you with 2 marks for explanation. Okay, so one factor that you need to consider is distance when choosing a supplier. It's better to have a closer supplier for you in a business, as it could reduce transport costs. Okay, or what else can it do? Yes, you may be able to get resources quicker. This is another point. All right, so here I will get a point for mentioning the factory, which is an application, and then reducing transport cost is an explanation for this one, getting me another point. Okay, when choosing a suitable land or how to know the suitability of a land, you have also many, such as having a large area or the cost of the land, of course, the rent. I mean, if this business is not buying the land, because in most cases sometimes they do buy the land, but for me here I chose the access to power. Okay, you can say access to power, to water, to electricity. It's fine. Anyone is okay. You can say, okay, for the explanation, since of course flow production is used, which is an application, so continuous supply to operate is needed. Therefore, you need power all the time, you need water, and of course you need electricity. All right, so this is how you get the point. 2 marks, 2 marks. Okay, finally, part E, the last question of this paper. Okay, so here, do you think the advantages for manufacturing a business of using flow production are greater than the disadvantages? Justify your answer. Okay, so how are we gonna answer this? We can mention an advantage and another disadvantage. And then for the justification, you have to talk about how this advantage could actually be, you can say, can be not affected by this disadvantage. Like there's a way out. Okay, it's something like that when you're justifying. So for advantages, you can talk about benefits of economies of scale, which is something I included, or you can say that using flow production is usually capital intensive. Okay, so it will lower the labor or wage costs. Okay, this is a good answer as well. You can talk about that, the output, which can be produced 24 hours a day since it's continuous. You can also talk about that the workers can specialize, or they can have little training because they will use machines more than they need, like physical skills. Okay, like with their hands and such. So how I arrange my answers, that one advantage is economies of scale. Okay, so this is 1 point for mentioning. Okay, now for the explanation of this identification of this advantage is that economies of scale will lower the unit costs. Okay, so one more point. All right. However, or nevertheless, this method is inflexible. Inflexible meaning that you cannot change it. Like, it's hard to tweak something in the process. Okay, the process is fixed. You cannot add or remove anything. You cannot rearrange stuff. It's hard. Okay. Another disadvantage that you can mention is that it may demotivate employees or rises absenteeism or may cause labor turnover. Why? Because this is a boring method. It's the same thing repeated every day. There's really not much work, and just only like operating the machines, and that's all. Another disadvantage is that machines could break down, and like I said, since this method is inflexible, this will ruin the whole production line and it will stop, so delays the output. Another disadvantage you can talk about is requiring a higher level of raw materials or inventory, which increases the storage space or cost. Okay, but overall I kind of like, I chose the inflexibility or the difficulty to change this process because I believe it sums up all of the ones I mentioned just now. So the business may not meet customers needs. Okay, sorry, I forgot. Or needs or demands. Okay, so I think the advantages are greater. Okay, so this is my justification. Okay, sorry, I forgot to mention this method is inflexible is 1 mark, and then your explanation here is another 1 mark. Okay, total 4. So as lower unit costs could result in lower, okay, here lower unit costs I will not get any mark, but they result in lower prices is a mark. Okay, because I did not mention this earlier. This is an evaluation here. 1 mark. Thus it will increase the demand. Okay, all right, so if the product has high sales, it will reduce the need for flexibility. Okay, so another point here. So since economies of scale gives us the benefit of lowering unit costs, therefore the business will eventually lower its products prices, and of course your demand will increase, your sales will increase, and revenue overall. So therefore by looking at this result, they may not need to change the production line or production process like here, because it's like I said earlier, I mentioned this as a disadvantage, but this could still go with the business way. It will not completely hinder their effectivity. So in this case, the advantage is more suitable. Okay, it's greater. The advantages overall are greater than the disadvantages. Okay, so any other appropriate response is credited, and any way you would arrange this answer is all right, as long as you just follow this format as identifying, explaining, and then evaluating your answer. You should be able to get full marks for this question. Okay, thank you for watching. Very good luck for your exam. I hope you guys do well. I'll try to post another video or maybe a short, but I'm not really sure if I could do that, but I'll try my best. Maybe doing more of part E. I think part E is really important. Maybe I could post a short sooner about part E. All right, thank you for watching. Stay safe.